Hey, this is Evan Longoria of your San Francisco Giants, and you're listening to TortureCast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the three-time world champion, San Francisco Giants. With hosts Chad King and Eric Nathanson. This is TortureCast.
It's Thursday, February 11th, 2021, and this is episode 213 of the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. I'm your host, Chad King, and joining me on this wonderful February day, Eric Nathanson from Las Vegas. How you doing?
Hey, Chad. Doing well. It's getting warm again. That means that baseball is coming up and football's over. So I'm just kind of geeked that we're getting to talk baseball again. It's time to get this machine going again.
I know. Every time the Super Bowl ends, you always start thinking about, the smell of the grass and the crack of the bat. And in fact, my daughter, who, she lost basically her entire softball season, just like every kid in America did last year. Even though they're probably not going to actually have a set season this year, it looks like they will start at least practicing as a high school team. But regardless, we went out yesterday and threw the ball in the sunshine and on the grass, and it just felt good, About a half hour of just tossing the ball and throwing grounders, and it just felt great. And it just inspires me every winter and spring when we start doing this stuff like that. I mean, unfortunately, I won't be coaching the Little League this year. They already canceled the Little League season. Which is just a knife in the heart, It's just it's rough. And most likely
sucks. We got to be done with this soon.
Yeah, and most likely, my daughter won't have a softball season, and it's like, man, she made the varsity team last year, and she's going to lose her freshman and sophomore year of competitive softball. Just gone, like half of her time in high school. It's just see ya. So
she might be the best player on the team come junior year at that. I'm serious, because when they finally get to be competitive again, if her talent level stays what it is or continues to rise, she very much could be one of the top three on that team.
Yeah, we definitely got to start working a little bit more in the off season. She was so depressed last year. I mean, she's doing great in school, but she was just kind of bummed about the softball thing. She just didn't even want to work out. For softball, she's doing great. She's doing all these ab workouts and like YouTube workouts every day, at home and everything. So she's keeping physically fit. But as far as the softball skills, we need to ramp up that frequency. But it's hard. I can understand from a child's point of view, or really anyone's point of view. It's like something that they love that they can't do. It's hard to get the motivation to go out there and practice. Because what is it going to be applied to? And especially now that it looks like there's not going to be a season. So she's kind of the mind of like, well, great, we go out and practice as a team, whatever. It's like, we're not going to have games. But it's unfortunate. Our county is being very, very strict about high school sports and activities. Even though I'm a very objective, scientific, listen to the experts kind of guy, even I'm kind of thinking some of their restrictions are a little too strict. They're a little too severe, but it is what it is.
If people can get vaccinated and people can get tested, then you should be able to gather outdoors a little easier. That's really the crux of it.
It is. It's all about the proximity. They're going to allow teams to practice as just their team. So that's why you can't play another team. And on your said team, you still have to maintain 6 feet of distance and wear masks. So, that kind of, technically rules out a runner on first with the first baseman, or pitcher and catcher and umpire all within the same box. It's that kind of stuff that is prohibited. So they can go out and play catch and run some drills, but they can't do like simulated batting in games. And if you want to play another team, they have to, if it's your non-pod or your non-team, you have to stay 25 feet away from them. What kind of game can you play where everyone's 25 feet apart from your competition, right? That just doesn't happen.
Well, this begs a question, and I'm actually shocked we never discussed this during this entire pandemic. And I just quickly, before we dive into it, Do you think you could have played ball with a mask on? Because I think I absolutely could have played ball with a mask on, and it would not have been a big deal to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, now, because I'm still going to my CrossFit gym and we have to work out outside, right? Now outside, I'm not wearing a mask, but the restrictions were just lifted a couple of weeks ago where we can go back into the gym at like 10% capacity. Now I choose to work out outside because I don't want to work out with a mask on. But if there's a certain movement or exercise that does require me to go inside to, let's say, use the rig, if it's pull-ups or toes to bar or something like that, right? Then I got to slap on my mask and go inside. And it's if I can have my heart rate at 170, breathing like a dog and sweating everywhere, and I'm okay with a mask, yeah, playing baseball, I never got up to that kind of workout level or heart rate or breathing rate, right? And you're outdoors too. So I would have had no problem hitting with a mask, fielding with a mask. Nothing. No, it would have been fine. I totally agree. It would have been
Doesn't matter where you are on the field. If you're an outfielder, you have to sprint every once in a while. If you're a hitter, you have to sprint every once in a while. Other than that, nobody really runs. The catcher,
those 10 seconds or less, it's not that hard. Soccer would be a different issue. Basketball, totally different issue. That one, I wouldn't be able to wear a mask because it does get stuck to your face and as you're sweating and everything. But all right, well, let's talk about.
I was going to say I'm not sure I could do it in football either because with the helmet and all of them running around, but.
Wouldn't be fun. Well, talking about football, that was a superb owl, I guess. It wasn't a very good one. Unfortunately, it was, for me personally, it was two teams. I just was hoping the game would just get canceled and they wouldn't have a winner this year. Because I certainly didn't want the Chiefs to repeat after what happened last year against the 49ers. Not only the 10-point comeback, but the fact that there were so many holds last year that were not called that just ticked me off as a 49er fan. And they were called this year, apparently. And then, of course, freaking Tom Brady. I don't want him to win any more Super Bowls. So, personally, it was a tough Super Bowl to watch. And then, additionally, it was not a good game. So, but just kind of your quick thoughts on it. I mean, I was surprised at how poorly the Chiefs played. It was shocking.
Yeah, I didn't expect the loss of a couple guys on their offensive line to make that big of a difference, but it really, really did. Everything I listened to leading up to the game talked about that, and it was the key to the entire game. Like, Mahomes really did not play that bad. He just never had time to throw the ball, and then when he did, his receivers didn't catch it. It was such a boring game. It was really so boring because the Bucks defense just shut them down so much. It was like, honestly, it was like watching a Bears regular season game where they dominate an inferior opponent because they're getting their pass rush home all the time. And so, like, Brady didn't deserve MVP, and that's not a knock on Brady. I thought that somebody on the defense should have gotten it, like Devin White. But I do have to say, I personally think Tom Brady taking this team to win a Super Bowl is his greatest achievement. And I do rank him as the greatest quarterback of all time forever and ever after that. I mean, to just go to a completely different city and raise the level of play of everybody on that team, that's, to me, what does it over anything else. And, had Joe Montana gone to Kansas City and done the same thing, because he got to a championship game, then he might have elevated himself to that status. But I think Brady, has cemented it by doing that in Tampa. And that's not a knock on Joe. It's just,
no.
It was unbelievable. And, you can hate or love Brady. I just think at this point you have to respect what he's done, because he showed that he is the GOAT. I mean, they were fantastic. I wish I had seen it coming. I would have put money on the Bucks and not.
Instead, it didn't work out. We talked about this in our. In fact, Willie was supposed to join us today, but I don't think he could make it. We started a new podcast called Heart Edition, which is kind of a smorgasbord variety podcast with four guys just talking about news, politics, sports, fantasy, gaming. I mean, all sorts of stuff, you name it. We talked about the Super Bowl, and one of the points that I brought up is, look, as a longtime Niner fan, up until a few years ago, I still consider Joe Montana the GOAT. And, at the time, let's say, I think the example I brought up was when Brady won his 5th Super Bowl, right? And everyone was like, that's the most ever for a quarterback. He's past Joe Montana. He's the greatest of all time. And at that point, I could still hang my hat on the fact that he wasn't perfect in Super Bowls. You think he was 5-2 at the time, right? maybe 5-3, but I think he was 5-2. And it was like, well, Joe is a perfect 4-0. 4-0 is better than 5-2. I don't care what you say. He's now 7-3, and he's got 5 MVPs. And like you just said, not only all the regular season accolades, in terms of records and touchdowns and passing yards and longevity and how old he is and how well he's performing. The fact that he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which last year I think they were 7-9 last year?
7-9, yeah.
Yeah, they were 7-9 last year. He comes to Tampa Bay. He brings a couple of free agents with him, notably, Gronk and AB. Well, at least he approved that. And LaForte. And all those guys ended up scoring in the Super Bowl. And you just kind of go, okay, I mean, he's the greatest of all time, no matter what I, say about Joe Montana. And like you said, It's no knock on Joe, obviously. But in this day and age, with expanded playoffs, it's harder to make to the Super Bowl. The fact that he's been to 10 and he's played 21 seasons, so basically half of his career he's made the Super Bowl, and 7 out of those 10 times he won it, and 5 out of those 7, he was the MVP. So, yeah, I think you got to finally give him the nod, and he's going to come back next year. And he's a local boy. He grew up in San Mateo, went to Sarah High School. That was a rival high school of my high school that I went to. We never did actually play him while I was there. I graduated in 1991. He started his freshman year in 1992. So I just missed him in terms of overlap because he's exactly 4 years.
That's right.
Exactly 4 years younger than me. So he's 43, I'm 47. But I gotta say something, Eric. I mean, I can't imagine 4 years ago, of course that's not that long, that I could physically be performing in the NFL. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy talk, man. I can barely get out of bed sometimes.
It's funny. I think that way, and I'm 41, and I think that way. And I actually do still think I could play center field somewhere. But, the truth of it is I'm deluding myself because my body would never be able to do it. And that's the only comparison that we could make because there's no way we would jump into a football game at the age that we're at.
Nope.
That is what makes it so much more impressive, though, is to be at his age to do it. I mean, and then the team beat, in order, Breeze, Rodgers, and Mahomes, 2 Hall of Famers and 1 possible Hall of Famer. Yeah. I mean, there's not much more that can be said than that. He showed up like when others didn't, and he continues to show up when others don't. Now, I think that's what makes winners and champions. That's why we love the Giants and cherish the 3 and 5 so much. It's because winners those are the guys you want to be around. They're the ones that are always going for that goal. It doesn't matter what. And he's an animal. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Bucs are in that game next year, and if they they could win it all again next year. I wouldn't bet on it because the odds are going to be for shit, but I definitely think that the Bucs could be back. And it was an ugly end to a weird season, and now hopefully we'll actually have baseball. I'm worried that we're not going to have a full baseball season.
Yeah.
And I don't know what your thoughts. I don't know if you have any last thoughts on the game, but it's time for baseball. Like, it's finally time for baseball. We're feeling it again.
Yeah, I'd say the only other thing that happened after the Super Bowl. Oh, by the way, of course, we did have a streaker, and Kevin Harlan had one of the greatest calls
yes.
during that. I won't play the whole thing, but I will play what is always going to be a great sound clip for any podcast.
Pull up your pants, take off the bra, and be a man!
Oh, I love
it's
it.
The puppy monkey baby of this Super Bowl.
I love it. No, so he showed up to Tampa on, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, on a $2 million yacht or boat, right? Big old speedboat.
Yeah.
And I guess they were partying, all morning, afternoon. And there's this great video of him basically being held up by some lackey in his party. And he is just hammered. I mean, hammered, coming out of the boat ramp in front of the public and some reporters, and they're all trying to shout him questions. And he's got the biggest dumbass, like, fraternity boy grin, just with his Ray-Bans and his backward hat. He just looked like some older frat boy. He really did. He had the cargo shorts and the pastel t-shirt and like the white sneakers. I mean, it was just like, oh man. And it was like, you can relate. Day drinking in Florida, it is what.
Oh, 100%. And I would imagine I 100% relate with that. And I would imagine he doesn't drink during the season. I just strikes me as the kind of guy on his diet that doesn't drink during the season. So his tolerance is not good by the time it ends, I'm sure.
No, he is remarkably and totally known for keeping his body in tip-top shape. 11 out of the 12 months of the year. I think this is the one time of the year where he can finally, he can take one week, go, let it go, party, enjoy your accomplishment. I had no problem with it. I thought it was great. I thought some people were all mad at him going like, that's embarrassing, or he's not wearing a mask in public. It's like, dude, he was on a boat. He was partying. Like, he's not thinking about a mask at this point right now.
Nope.
Look at where he was. He was 3 sheets to the wind. But, for all his other issues that I'm not in agreement with, at least I could relate to that and say, you know what, good for him. He enjoyed himself, and he's celebrating this moment. And he'll get back up on that horse here in the next week or so. All right.
He'll stop looking like Bernie from Weekend at Bernie.
That's exactly right. He's being propped up like that.
Yep.
So, what is today? February 11th? 6 days,
Yes,
Eric.
there you go.
6 days. Pitchers and catchers report. In 11 days, February 22nd, full squad reports. And on February 27th is their first scheduled spring training game against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And, of course, first regular season game, April 1st. So everything is, according to Major League Baseball and the Giants, is proceeding as planned. They have pictures of all the gear from Oracle Park being shipped down to Arizona. So everything's looking good so far. But like you just said, is this actually going to happen? But I'm excited regardless. Let's see if we can do this. The NFL got through a whole season. The NBA got through a shortened season. MLB completed the shortened season last year. Things are only going to be getting better from now in terms of the pandemic. Doesn't mean that it can't spread through a clubhouse. It certainly can. But as far as national levels, they're starting to go down. Vaccination rates are going up. That said, the players and coaches, unless they're 65 and older or have some sort of medical condition, most of them are not going to be vaccinated. But I think the light, even though the tunnel's really long, the light is still perceptible at the end of that tunnel. And I'm hoping that if they don't have any major breakouts in spring training and they get through spring training, I think the regular season's going to be a go.
Yeah, I agree. Excuse me. I agree. It seems like they are actually on track, even though they don't seem to know their head from their butt in other instances, like changing up the game by keeping in the doubleheader extra inning rule and the runner on second in extra inning. I mean, the doubleheaders being reduced to 7-inning games and the runner on second in extra innings will still be a part of baseball this year. So to me, right, they anticipate there could still be problems with scheduling, because that's the only reason to want to make sure games get played like that. Because if they lose a series early in the year, they're going to want to be able to, play it again later in the year, and doing the doubleheader one day for the 7-inning games is certainly, it falls under that again. So while it does seem like we have a clear path ahead, MLB is still putting contingencies in, and it doesn't necessarily worry me because, like you said, we should be getting nothing but better. And barring a breakout, the Giants are acting as if this season is happening and they're going to be competitive.
Yeah,
at least they're going to try to be competitive.
Thanks for bringing that up. I totally forgot to add it to the notes, even though it was on my mind. Major League Baseball did agree with the union to re-implement the extra inning rule, like you said, and the 7-inning doubleheaders. Now, remarkably, they are not going to have a DH in the National League, so we're going to go back to the way it used to be. That said, I know you're against it. I'm absolutely for it. I'm
Come on, we all watched it last year. Baseball was so much better. Where the hell is Donovan Solano going to play? The guy's glove is like cement. I mean, sorry.
No, but you know what? To be honest, I think this is the swan song for that. Regardless, right? We've talked about this with the expiration of the CBA and the renegotiation happening for 22. I don't see this surviving. I do think that the DH is going to become a permanent fixture in Major League Baseball. So I think this is going to be the last year. So I'm going to enjoy it as a quote purist. But then again, we have all these other weird rules in. Now, I see a lot of Giants fans and Major League Baseball fans getting very angry about these rule changes, but you just noted the reason why they feel like they have to do it. It's an insurance policy to protect against canceled games. That's it. I don't think us as fans have to be worried about this being a permanent fixture. It's not going to be. I mean, look at what happened in the playoffs. They removed those, right? I mean, well, they weren't going to have doubleheaders anyway, but they removed the extra runner in extra innings. That is never going to be a permanent part of baseball. It is just here as a stopgap so you don't have 18-inning marathon games. So you don't have to reschedule if you wipe out a whole series because of COVID, which happened to many teams last year, where they were playing doubleheader after doubleheader after doubleheader near the end of the shortened season. It's wear and tear on the teams. It increases the chances for injury. There's just so many reasons for it. I don't like it just, in plain view, but I understand it.
Yes. That's the key. It's like, thanks, I hate it. You know, and it's gotta happen. It's a part of it, but that's fine. We made it through one season already, so we become desensitized to these things after a while.
I think that's what it is, and we've talked about this before. How baseball has been the one sport that has been very resistant to change. Rules are rarely changed, except for the catcher, interference rule and things of that nature that are fairly minor. But we've seen some major rule changes, granted most of them being temporary, in this game, which normally would cause an uproar and like, oh my God, you're altering the course of history. And it's like, well, it is what it is. I mean, every ballpark is at a different elevation and has a different configuration, and they bring fences in and push them out, all those things. Oh, in addition to those rule changes, which by the way, they still have not finalized any decision on playoffs. By all indications, they're not going to have expanded playoffs, but they haven't ruled it out either. So that will be something that would directly affect the Giants and a lot of teams kind of in that 500, winning percentage area. Look at what happened to the Giants last year. They were just one game out of it, on the last day of the season because of the expanded playoffs. So if they have expanded playoffs this year, I think the Giants' chances are in the realm of possibility of making the playoffs. If they stick with the old system, gotta be honest, Eric, I think the chances are zero.
Oh, it is. I agree. They're the third place ball club at best in this division behind the Dodgers and Padres. So
they're not going to make the playoffs.
Need expanded playoffs.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And then the other thing I forgot to note, might as well talk about it, is that Major League Baseball surprisingly released a memo to all 30 teams, and it was a shock to them, about slightly deadening the baseball this year. And everyone had said, wait, what? Are you admitting that they were juiced? Is that what you're saying? And, apparently they're not saying that. But they are going to change the winding process slightly. There's the P and then the cork ball in the middle. Then it becomes, they wind that ball with a bunch of yarn. That yarn is going to be ever so slightly less tightly wound. And so you're going to get a little bit more play in that baseball. And then they're going to put the leather, of course, over the top. It will increase the average weight of a baseball by 0.1 ounces. Now, you might ask yourself, what the heck? Can you do that? The official rules of baseball actually state a baseball must weigh between 5 and 5.25 ounces. So there's a 1/4 ounce of play in the official rules. So adding that 1/10 of an ounce is still within that range. Now, what's interesting is that they said that for a home run hit 375 feet, it will now fly 1 to 2 feet shorter. And I asked myself, how much of an impact is that really going to make on the game, Eric? I mean, we're talking, if it's 2 feet max at a 375 feet, I mean, way less than 1%, right? We're talking like a 0.5% or less.
But what is that? Like a difference of just league-wide, like one homer per week?
That's exactly the way I was thinking about it. I haven't seen anyone who's been smart enough to take all the StatCast measurements of home runs, and say, okay, this is how many home runs were 2 feet or less over the wall. That's what I would love to see. So filter that out. Here are all the home runs that were 2 feet or less over the wall, if they have that stat. I don't even know if they do. But if there's a way to figure that out, and then get that number and go, oh, there were 50 home runs, there were 100 home runs, there were 300 home runs hit like that. But there were 2,000 home runs hit, So it's like, is it really going to have a market impact on it? I don't know, and for a ball that's
sounds like it has a market impact on it to the people that are hearing about this and the fans and the people that matter. So as long as it sounds like it's changing things, that's all that MLB is probably worried about at this point.
Yeah.
Because they're allowing humidors. I heard that the number of teams also that use humidors is ratcheting up to like 12 of the 30 teams will now use humidors. So I don't know which ones. I know Colorado was allowed to way back when, but I didn't know that they let a bunch of other teams do that.
I was going to say, the last I heard was there were 5 teams last year. They expanded it with 5 more, and it'll be a total of 10.
Oh, 10. Okay, yeah 10. Oh, yeah, the third. That's right. That's what it was. I had but I mean, I couldn't imagine, like, they run, like, who came up with the 375 number? Why did they decide that was the good number to say, oh, well, if it's over 375 feet, how do you even test that?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems a bit odd and suspect to me personally in the first place. And I think it's just a bunch of lip service from Major League Baseball. So we'll have to see, a couple months into the season, it'll be a topic, a conversation, whether or not home runs have gone up or gone down.
Yeah, they said that it was an independent laboratory that analyzed it. I don't have the statement here right now, but they did say that it was an independent lab that did that. Now, 2019 did see the highest home runs ever hit in Major League Baseball. Now, 2020 was just ever so slightly below that mark, but of course, with a shortened season, who knows how a full season it would have actually ended up. So I guess Major League Baseball thought it was time to do this. I mean, look, chicks dig the long ball.
But I dig the long ball, man.
It is. Hey, look, I admit home runs are fun. They are. I agree. But at the same time, if this has any observable impact on the game, it will result in lowering the scores of games, which actually could lower the time it takes to play these games and tighten up some of that competitive balance. But then again, I mean, if they said 5 to 10 feet less on a 375-foot home run, I would have been like, oh, this is definitely going to take a chunk of home runs out. 1 to 2 feet just doesn't sound like a whole lot, but we'll see. Nope. It's going to be interesting. All right, so the Giants have been busy. We last recorded in early January, so it's been about 5 weeks since we last recorded. They've actually had some significant signings. Farhan Zaidi is definitely on his diamond in the rough warpath that he typically takes. So they've definitely gobbled up a couple of ex-Dodgers, too. So it's not really addition by subtraction because these guys wouldn't have necessarily ended up on the Dodgers anyway. But they did start out in mid-January signing free agent pitcher Alex Wood. So it's a 1-year, $3 million deal that includes an additional $3 million in performance bonuses. He was an all-star in 2017. He had a heck of a year that year. He was 16-3, by the way, that year with like a 2.67 ERA. He was fantastic. But over his 8 major league seasons, he's posted a 3.45 ERA. He actually did toss 2 perfect innings against the Rays in Game 6 of last year's World Series, and he earned a ring with the Dodgers. So, but overall, he didn't have a great year last year or the prior year. We'll see. I mean, Zaidi was actually the one who signed Wood and did the trade with the Braves to get him. So he's very familiar with Alex Wood, and he really loves his deceptive and funky delivery. And when he's not injured, but you can say that about any player, he likes his performance. So they did. Farhan did say that they laden his contract with a bunch of performance objectives, and it all has to deal with like how many outs he gets per outing. So I think if it's 10 starts, he gets 10 or more outs in a game, he gets like $150,000. Then if he gets 12 outs or it's 12 games he does that, he gets like another $180,000. I don't have the numbers in front of me. But basically, the more he pitches in each game, the more money he can make. So he's going to be under his own pressure, really, to get out there as often as he can. And he could be a long-time reliever after a starter, in terms of they might have an opener, I should say, and he could come in and eat up some innings. So we'll see.
He could. I could totally see him piggybacking off an opener because Woods had been that. I've always liked Wood as a pitcher. He's been that kind of player.
Yeah.
That I would never mind seeing in a Giants uniform. There's they also signed Tommy LaStella, second baseman, to a 3-year deal. It's the first 3-year deal Farhan has given out since he has taken over in San Francisco, which is kind of surprising. Everything else has been 1- and 2-year deals, and even the 2-year deals are scarce. But 3 years, $18.75 million for Tommy LaStella. He's a utility infielder, and he's a left-handed bat. And as you noted here, he is a tough out. He barely strikes out and has some pop. And that was what Farhan said that he really keyed on, was that strikeout to walk ratio that LaStella had over the last year. I think he was like first or second in the league when it came to that. And that does make him a tough out. And he's versatile. He can play pretty much all over the diamond. And I like this addition of Tommy LaStella. I've seen him in a Cubs uniform for many years, and I really think he's a veteran that's going to come in and provide good leadership for this team. What do you think of LaStella signing?
Oh, I thought it was great. I always liked him as a scrappy hitter on the Angels. I obviously didn't follow him very much when he was with the Cubs. He was actually on that 2016 team that won the World Series. But no, I love him. And he was actually almost out of baseball not that long ago. He was about to ready to hang it up. But no, he's had an all-star year. He was great with the Angels, very serviceable with the A's. He's got sneaky pop. He can play, mostly infield, of course. And he's that left-handed bat that they were looking for, that they said they were looking for. I was surprised that they signed him to 3 years. That's what I was shocked about. I just thought, that's a long deal for Farhan.
Yeah, it's backloaded too. I believe it's like $11 million for the last year of this deal. I think it's something like it goes $3 million and then almost $6 million, and then the last year it's almost $11 million or 10 point something. So I wonder if they were forced to do the 3-year deal to backload it because as we talked about, they're going to have negotiations next year, collective bargaining. Certain things are up in the air. So the Giants may have wanted to just do it that way. I don't know if there's a buyout on his deal or not, but it seems like a bargain just to get veteran leadership like that for 3 years. If he fits into the clubhouse, it'll be the best deal that they make in a while. He's that guy. He's not 100 pence, but he's a veteran guy who's going to come in, and if he can affect the clubhouse, he'll be welcome to stay the full 3 years.
Yeah, I want to go ahead and play. There's a nice 60-second audio bite of his thoughts on joining the Giants.
Where I wanted to be, so I'm very relieved we were able to get it done. And the third year was important. I felt like wherever I went, I wanted to be able to be there for a few years and to be a part of something. And certainly you can be a part of something in 2 years, but to get that extra year and to be around the same faces and build something together was my goal. It's a unique group. I think that was one of the reasons it was so intriguing to me. They got a nice blend of guys who have been around, very accomplished players, won multiple championships, and some younger players who are coming up and blossoming into great players too. So I think the opportunity to come here, learn from those guys, and collaborate was high on my list. Yeah, talking to Gabe was great. He's very thoughtful. He's a progressive thinker. And ultimately, I felt like he was somebody that I could learn from. So I think that was important for me in making this decision. And like Farhan said, we did have a couple conversations, and they were rather lengthy. And I think we connected on a number of things.
Rather lengthy conversations with Gabe Kapler. I can imagine that. Gabe Kapler definitely strikes me as a guy that, even if he's not smoking weed or doing whatever, he's going to have some long, esoteric conversations with you about very small bits of minutia.
Well, here's the thing. Quick side note on Gabe Kapler. He lost his father during the offseason.
Oh, that's right.
As somebody who has lost my father, I can tell you, you're very, very motivated the following year. And I can really see him connecting on a human level to more people than he was doing in the first place. Mm-hmm. So you got to wonder if, that is part of why the minutia and stuff like that you talk about, that he's probably willing to talk about, is pouring out of him right now. Because, I thought about this the other day as somebody who lost, my father, and then the following year I thought about, what did I do the following year? Oh my gosh, I really buckled down and I did this and I accomplished this because I wanted my dad to be proud of me, and I missed talking to him. So it was like, I could see Gabe doing something similar. I mean, he's not much older than us, or around, our age. So I could see the same thing. And so when LaStella says things like that, it makes you wonder. And it's nice to hear LaStella say the words unique and intriguing when it comes to the Giants. But I just fear that you say that about teams that you expect to finish third, not teams you expect to finish first.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, she has a great personality. It's like.
But.
Oh, man. Anyway, I like the signing. I think it's great. It definitely plugs a hole. I think he's going to be a tough out, a good pinch hitter when he's not starting. He's going to provide some solid defense and, like you said, some veteran leadership. So
he's
definitely
a glue guy. That's what he is.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so the Giants also got rid of, I wouldn't say longtime Giant, but a guy who's been around for a few years, Shaun Anderson. They traded him to the Minnesota Twins for center fielder. Do you say, is it LaMonte or LaMonte? I've heard both.
I would say LaMonte. That's what I see when I see it.
Yeah. So LaMonte Wade Jr., he's 27 years old. He only has 95 official at-bats in the major leagues, but he can play all three outfield positions and first base. He also provides some roster flexibility because he has two options remaining. Which is fantastic. And as you noted here, he was an all-star in 3 straight years in the minors. Same thing, low strikeout rate, puts the ball in play. It's something that Farhan likes to see. So he's going to be a great versatile option for, defensive surplus at the end of games. He can play first, any outfield position. He'll be a speedster out on the path. So, a late inning guy in a tie game that you might want to give a crack to an at-bat because he might work a walk and, or slap one into left field. So not a bad signing, I don't think, or trade.
Or he could turn into the next Mike Yastrzemski. I mean, look at this, 27-year-old outfielder. Come on. I mean,
it's very similar. I know. Right?
Farhan seems to like trading with the Twins. He seems to like their farm system. So, maybe he sees something that we don't see. Plus, it's another left-handed bat. And everybody that we're talking about here is left-handed, like LaStella, Wade. We're talking about McGee in a minute. These left-handed players, like Farhan, is going heavy on them. And, you have to wonder if that's what his thought is. Could be a flash in the pan like a Yaz. Who knows? Could be like a Dickerson. He's just another one of those guys that Farhan takes a shot at. Every move he makes, when it's like this, I like these moves. So I look forward to LaMonte Wade Jr. in a Giants uniform. I'm curious to see what this guy can do.
Yeah, I was looking at some of his minor league stuff, and it was really off the charts. He's never going to be a guy with a lot of pop, but he has a lot of other tools that he brings to the table.
I mean, who knows? Some of these guys, they turn it around. You look at a guy like Clay Bellinger. I don't know what this guy's body type is, but you don't expect Clay to be a home run hitter, and then he unfurls that swing. So
yeah.
And from what I hear, Wade is standing more upright in his batting stance, more with the Justin Turner type leg than crouching like he used to. So, who knows if that changes his power structure or not. I don't know even know where I read that, but I was doing research this morning and I did. All right. And then just the other day, the Giants signed relief pitcher Jake McGee, left-hander, as I mentioned, to a 2-year, $7 million deal. Last year, he was with the Dodgers after 2 horrible seasons in Colorado. Last year with the Dodgers, though, he had a 2.6 ERA and a 1.67 fielding independent pitching, FIP, with 33 strikeouts to just 3 walks. So he's like the opposite of Tommy LaStella when it comes to the strikeout walk ratio. He's the pitcher version of him. And those 33 strikeouts and 3 walks was in just 20 1/3 innings last season because, of course, it was a shortened season and he was only pitching probably an inning at a time. So 25 appearances is probably all he was limited to. And I think this McGee signing is fantastic. We were talking about it before the show. He uses fastball a ton. And apparently he stays in the zone and guys hit the ball, but they hit the ball places. When he went to Colorado, he said he tried to do too much and throw a slider in too much. And then when the Dodgers called him last year after he got cut during summer camp, the Dodgers called him and he said, I'll do whatever you guys suggest. And they suggested that he throws a ton of fastballs. And apparently that's what works out for him. It's a 4-seamer that's kind of a heavy ball. So I think McGee is possible for the closer role this year. I mean, I don't see anybody else on the horizon as a closer role, so I kind of think McGee's got a shot to take it.
No, I agree. I think McGee definitely jumps to the top of the possible candidates for the closer role. Again, you noted that it was a shortened season last year. We know this about everyone. But 33 strikeouts in 20 innings, I mean, that's fantastic. But then the ratio is 11-1 from Ks to walks. I mean, just 3 walks in those 20 innings. It's fantastic. So if he's going to keep up even close to those numbers, he's going to be a solid option as a closer. So another ex-Dodger, but at the same time, it doesn't matter in this day and age, right? A lot of people get all fed up about stuff like that. I think it was different back in the day, back in the 80s and 90s, when guys were with teams a little bit longer, and you saw, Hershiser go to the Giants or Brett Butler go to the Dodgers, and Dusty Baker and kind of stuff like that as well. It was a little bit more shocking. This day and age, it's like, it's just gun for hire. That's all it is.
Well, I mean, you look at the two guys we're talking about, Wood and McGee. They both played with multiple teams and played with other teams before the Dodgers. So
correct. It's not like they were a long-time Dodger. Mm-hmm. Exactly. They don't look at the Dodgers and their short time there as like they're beholden to the franchise. Not at all. I totally agree with you. It doesn't matter. All right. So look, there's still some time left before spring training starts, and Farhan never stops with the moves, but if everything kind of stays the same with their 40-man roster, we were talking about this pre-show, and it was kind of, I wouldn't say shocking, but surprising to look at the candidates for the starting rotation. And here's the list as it stands right now, really with the 6 options that they have. We have Johnny Cueto, and this is no order of rotation, by the way. I'm not suggesting this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have Johnny Cueto coming off a pretty bad season, Logan Webb, some injury, bad season, Kevin Gausman, one of the few pitchers that they were able to retain from last year who had a fantastic, strong year because he accepted the qualifying offer. What was that, like $18.5 or $19 million for 1 year?
Yeah, 18, I think, 18.5.
Crazy, right? Anthony DeSclafani, Alex Wood, and Tyler Beatty if he's healthy. So granted, we know that ultimately if they play a full season, there's going to be more than 6 starters throughout the year. The Giants tend to roll out about 12 in a year's time or even more. But as for right now, that looks like kind of the 6 options they have to go with. And I kind of, I will admit, Eric, I think when he logged on, he's like, really? Is that it? And he kind of looked and he's like, oh, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I was shocked.
Yeah, so
I started going through the roster and I was like, there's got to be another pitcher here somewhere I'm missing. And there wasn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, we are definitely past the days of Lincecum and Kane and Bumgarner. It's sad, and Cueto, of course, used to be at that level, but he just hasn't shown it, even after coming off his Tommy John surgery. So, I expect him to be serviceable this year, but nothing like a number 1. So, you look at this list and you're like, okay, some of these guys are going to have great games, but they're going to be pretty average, I'd say. Some of them below average, but you never know. With an Alex Wood, could have a 2017 Renaissance year, especially pitching in Oracle. DeSclafani has shown images of brilliance. Gausman can be somewhat inconsistent, but had a great year last year. Beatty and Webb are the young guys, and they just have been inconsistent. Yeah, I agree. Just far too many walks. He's just one of those guys that just walk, and it gets him into trouble. But then again, I mean, as these guys keep getting older, sometimes things click. Most of the time it doesn't when they get this far in their career, but sometimes it can. So, when you look at this rotation and realize the Giants, even though their offense was better than expected last year, the Giants are going to have a similar offense this year, even though they've added LaStella, so they're going to have some flexibility options that could enhance their run production. But it really is all going to kind of pertain on, how good of a year is Buster Posey going to have? Is he going to be around for most of this year? Brandon Belt with his often injured foot and leg, right? You have LaStella coming in, which may enhance some of this offense. You have Yastrzemski, whom, has not shown any signs of slumping in his sophomore year. I call it sophomore year, even though he's much older. So you expect him to be kind of producing at the same level that he did last year. The run production is there, but when you have a starting rotation that looks like this on paper, yeah, this is suspect to a very mediocre team. It just is.
Yeah, that's I hate. There's not much. You can't point at, it's funny because the Dodgers, we're going to talk about it next with Trevor Bauer. I mean, they got Kershaw, Price, and Bauer at the top of their rotation, and then the Giants have their number 1, Cueto, would be number 4 at that rotation.
Easily.
And there's you can do about that. You know what I mean? It's just the rich, not even the rich got richer, but the Dodgers took care of their own business. And the Giants, they're going to have to hope to maybe find somebody. There's a ton of guys who have been invited to spring training. So who knows if they add another couple of names to this list of guys that are going to rotate through. Because like you said, there's always injuries. But, I think Logan Webb's on his last legs, and I think Tyler Beatty's on his last legs. These guys got to perform or they're going to be gone.
Yeah, I agree. They remind me of some of the young pitchers they've had in the past that they came back for 2, 3, 4 consecutive years, and you just kept hearing about them. They're going to break through. They're going to be the next, Jason Schmidt or whatever, and it just never panned out. So yeah, I could see that happening for sure. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. We talked about last episode how the Padres just were going crazy with all of their signings. Of course, they're going to have one hell of a rotation themselves. But the Dodgers got the prized free agent of 2021, and that was defending, or I should say reigning Cy Young Award winner Trevor Bauer. Despite all the controversy he brings with his mouth, he loves LA apparently. So, it's one of those things where I was hoping my friend who I work out at the gym with, major Dodger fan, was like, I'm telling you, Bauer's coming to LA. And I was like, yeah, I know LA's probably going to throw a truckload of money, but we'll see. And then when it happened, I just messaged him with an expletive. He loved it, but
truckload of money is right too.
Well, and it's front loaded, right? Those first 2 years are ridiculous. Yep. And the third year option, I don't have it in front of me. I think the first year is like 40 million. Second year is like 35 or something. And then the last year is like 16 or something light. And he has an option to get out every single year for any reason. So there's no reason why after 2 years, and he makes, 75 or 80% of his contract in 2 years, that he's probably just going to jump ship, depending on where, of course, if he has 2 disastrous years, then he'll stay, and earn that money because he's probably not going to get that anywhere else. But if he has 2 good years, then yeah, I'm sure he'll be with the Dodgers for just 2 years. But man, that's a lot of money. It's another solid addition to their rotation. But I got to admit, Eric, when you look at his career stats, because Trevor Bauer's never been one of those guys where you thought of as a number one. He's always been a good pitcher, but never a number one. Last year, he put it all together and had an incredible year, but it was a shortened season too. And so I just wonder, are they being sold a bill of goods here? I mean, do you think that he's going to have come crashing down to earth and have kind of a standard 3.6 to 3.9 ERA? I mean, I don't know. I mean, and that's not bad, but it's not $40 million.
No, it's entirely possible that he does. I think he'll land somewhere in the middle. And like I said, he's the third best pitcher if you want to throw David Price above him on that rotation. He's going to be a nice villain for Giants fans. I've seen Kruko talk about it. I've seen Grant Brisbee talk about it. And I think Trevor Bauer's a schmuck. And I really do never want to see the Giants lose to him because he is that much of a schmuck. It's not even politics. He's just a schmuck in general. He's that kind of guy that thinks he's smarter than everybody but doesn't understand that he's really slightly dumber than everybody else. And it's frustrating to watch. I mean, not that I'm trying to pick a fight with Trevor Bauer here. I'm just saying he's a bit of a schmuck, and I can't wait to root against him for the next 1, 2, or 3 years, depending on how much money he decides to make in LA.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. Apparently, he's already voiced his displeasure with some Dodgers fans. Says, quote, this is 4 hours ago in the New York Post. Apparently, there was an over-aggressive people in pursuit of an autograph on Wednesday night. He says, Dodger fans, I love you already. I'm excited to meet you all and interact with you. I love signing autographs for fans, but please have some respect for my personal space when I'm at my house or hotel. It's not okay to follow me through the hotel demanding that I sign. So,
well, I agree there, but
I agree with the sentiment, but I think he's heading down that road already.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll call him a schmuck. Don't worry, I'll take the bullet. He's a schmuck.
No, he's going to be a new villain, definitely for the Giants fans to do one.
I look forward to it. Well, okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we're talking about the NL West, and we'll get to the PECOTA projections here in a minute. But, Yeah, I guess, even though this Trevor Bauer comes into the NL West, we had another notorious annual Giants killer leave the NL West in the form of Nolan Arenado going to the St. Louis Cardinals. So I myself respect the guy as a player, but I don't mind him leaving the NL West.
I don't understand this move from the Colorado Rockies perspective. I mean, what are you doing, man? Nolan Arenado is a possible Hall of Fame player. Why the hell are you trading him to St. Louis?
I think there's a lot that's not being said. That's just my read, and we know there was a lot of contention between the front office and him, and I think the relationship got sour. And
Still, I mean, it's like in football.
I know.
Why would you trade Deshaun Watson? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? Why would you trade this guy's a generational type talent. I love Arenado. I'm so happy he's out of the division. Yeah. And he's on the Cardinals. Not that I can root for him on the Cardinals, but it'll be a lot easier to watch highlights at night and see him in a Cardinals uniform.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So, yeah, the NL West overall, though, still with those two teams reigning, with the Padres and the Dodgers, are going to be a very tough division to play in. So that's good. So you put in a little note here about Keith Law and his ranks of the farm systems.
Yeah, the farm system rankings are all coming out, as they get closer to spring training. And Keith Law, the Athletic, ranked the Giants farm system 9th overall heading into this year. And now he didn't have a comparison to what they were ranked last year, but I have to imagine it was down in the teens. 9th overall is actually only good for third best in the division, which was surprising. Arizona is at 5th. The Padres are at 7th. The Dodgers are at 10th, right behind the Giants. And then Colorado... you'd think if you just traded away Nolan Arenado, your farm system would be better than 21st in baseball. But, hey, the Rockies are not bright. And so, his little – and I'll read it real quick. Keith Law's little tidbit on the Giants farm system, I thought, is cause for positive optimism. That's the word I'm looking for. Is cause for optimism. For a few years there, we know that the Giants were not pulling up a bunch of studs. And now with the addition of Joey Bart and others, they're trying to get some people up. So what Law wrote about the Giants was that the Giants system is making a rapid comeback thanks to high draft picks looking good out of the chute. A promising 2020 draft class where they spread money out effectively over 3 picks after the first round, and an advancing group of position player prospects led by Marco Luciano. Mm-hmm. The Major League team has not seen fruits of the system yet, which is true, other than Joey Bart. And that may not be true until at least 2022, given where these players are. Yep. And the loss of last year's minor league system. So if we get games this year, the system is likely to jump into the top 5. So Law projects that the Giants farm system will jump into the top 5, helped naturally by the fact that they'll lose almost nobody to promotion to the majors, and some of the high ceiling players will get their chance to play, which is true. Because every time we talk about the 40-man roster, we don't talk about how there's holes where they need to call up young kids. We talk about, okay, it's a battle between this, and this guy. But those are guys already on the 40-man. Yep. We're not having a discussion. So to hear Keith Law, who is one of the premier in that field, I don't know what to call it, scouting probably, thinks that they could be a top 5 farm system after this year. And it's good to see, because if Joey Bart gets to stay down in the minors this year and develop, that could give the Giants a chance to compete with the Padres and the Dodgers going forward.
Yeah, for sure. And that's going to be interesting to see how this minor league ball is going to shape up. We still don't know exactly what's going to happen. There's been already attrition of quite a few teams. They're definitely reducing the number of teams out there, but we'll see what happens. It's going to be sad, though, if there's no minor league ball or very limited ball this year, and more affiliates are losing their teams because of the contraction, I guess you could call it, of minor league ball. So, all right.
I would brave the Las Vegas Sun for some minor league baseball this year.
Yeah. All right, so Baseball Prospectus a few days ago just released their 2021 MLB projections, and the Giants are only projected to win 75 games. In fact, the whole NL West breakdown is as follows. Dodgers winning 103 with a 78% chance to win the division. Padres following in second at 96 wins with a 21% chance of winning the division. The D-backs at 79 wins, Giants at 75, and then the Rockies at 60. So they put the Giants in 4th place there. So they're predicting 12 games under 500 should there be a full season this year. I myself think that might be shooting a little bit low. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. The Giants, much like last year, strike me as a 500 ball club. That's why I keep saying they're the third place team in this division.
Yeah.
I just don't think that this division can have 3 winning teams necessarily. I think it makes it tough unless the Rockies are the punching bag. That's the thing. How are you going to give the Rockies 102 losses, but not give the Giants more than the 75 wins? Like, you got to add on like 2 or 3 more wins against the Rockies for the Giants. Just seems to make sense to me. Yeah. And then I don't see the D-backs projecting as good as they do, but Vegas doesn't either. Vegas has the Giants sitting in third place squarely to bet for the division. The problem is the Dodgers are the odds-on division favorite for any division. They're going off at 1-2. So
1-2, yeah. Oh.
Right, you're talking about it's pointless. So 78% for the Dodgers doesn't surprise me, and I got to be honest, I kind of agree with it. I don't think this is the. Do you think this is the year the Padres can catch them?
No, I still don't. I mean,
they're the Padres, man. How can we?
The Padres are definitely improved, and they're a fun team. But the Dodgers, they've won 8 divisions in a row now, 8 years in a row.
24, 16, I don't know.
Yeah, feels like it, right? They're starting to do what the Braves did back in the 90s into the 2000s, right? I think the Braves ended up winning 12 or 14 consecutive NL East pennants, or not pennants, but division titles. Dodgers are working on that. They're really working on that, and it's scary. The Giants were the last team to win the division, and that was 2012, Eric. 2012. Yeah. I mean, you got 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, that's 8 in a row. So that would be, this would be their 9th in a row should they win the West again. I mean, that's just dumb. That's just dumb. In this age of supposed parity, we still don't have a salary cap. We have a penalty, a tax penalty for high salaries, but when you are the LA Dodgers, you got the bankroll to take that impact. You got a lot of people wanting to come there too. So, and now they're the reigning world champions, which, makes it even worse. So it's a tough nut to swallow. The only thing I could see about the PECOTA projections is, we don't see what their breakdowns are, but remember, they do play an unbalanced schedule, right? So they play each NL West team 19 times. So that's four. Oops, sorry about my dog. So that is 4 other teams that add up to a total of almost 80 games. So basically half their season is against the NL West. And a quarter of their season, right, 38 games, are going to be against the Padres and the Dodgers. So, that is tough. That is tough. Now, that said, the Giants were very competitive against the Dodgers last year. I think they were just barely under 500 against them last year. That was one of the reasons they were hanging in there. And it was great to see them. They always seem to play the Dodgers well, is my point there. But I think maybe the PECOTA projections don't take those kind of tangential, results into account. I think they just look at the paper and they go, yeah, Dodgers are going to win 2 out of 3 of those games against the Giants. While maybe in reality, the Giants will win, 9 of the 19 or 8 of the 19, and it won't be as bad as PECOTA projects, but we'll see.
Yeah, and how can they put the D-back? Who do the D-backs even have anymore? Like, you know what I mean? There's no more name brands anywhere, but I guess fans of other teams could say that about the Giants. I never think about that because I'm inside the forest, but. I can't imagine the D-backs are going to be better than the Giants this year. The Giants just, to me, have more talent than a 75-win team. They just do. I think although the signings Farhan has made has risen that talent level. So I think PECOTA's going to be wrong. I think you're right. They don't take into account the division fight, or at least they do take into account the division fight by giving them that many victories. And that's why you have to scale it back a little bit in reality. Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, it was notorious last year that PECOTA picked the Cubs to finish in a certain position, and all Cubs fans at the beginning of the year were on their high horse, and they're like, ha, 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 whatever, the Cubs are going to tear through everybody, and then they finished exactly where PECOTA projected them to be. And it was really tough to watch, and so I'm kind of worried that the same thing will happen, but, it doesn't mean that the squirrel finds the nut every single time.
Have you seen a report? Has anyone? I mean, I'm sure PECOTA does their own analysis, right? Because they have these algorithms and models that produce these numbers, and they feed results from all the previous years back into their model. It's like a self-fulfilling kind of model itself. But publicly, have you seen any kind of PECOTA performance measures in terms of like, how often they're spot on and what are their outliers in terms of being way off? Because I've never done that. I've never really looked into it.
I think they go through it every year. There's always that one article that's like, how did we do, So I think we'd have to look back to late October to find something like that.
Yeah, and with the pandemic, that throws in so many wild cards, especially last year, right? With you got to play like 8 games in 5 days, that kind of thing. It's like, whoa, that kind of throws those algorithms off. I'm sure.
And 4 of those games are 7-inning games because you have 2 doubleheaders.
Exactly. So yesterday, the Giants announced that Major League Baseball approved their plan to host 750 to 1,000 fans for each spring training game at Scottsdale Stadium. Of course, the Giants are going to offer these individual tickets to season ticket holders first, and they're going to be selling them in sets of 2 or 4 people, and that will be a pod. And of course, those pods will be separated by at least 6 feet throughout the stadium, and then masks will be required. So, great, whatever. Scottsdale Stadium, of course, is not a big stadium. It's not Oracle Park, but 1,000 people that's just not much. It's going to be like, it's going to look like spring training in 1975, where like no one went,
Yeah, we've both been there to see games, and I know they've renovated some stuff since then, but sitting on that berm, I can totally see distancing from other groups of people, left field or that right center field area. Yeah. And then like you said, there's not a lot of stand. It's not going to look like I would do it. Would you do it? I would do it. I don't know. Maybe I tend to partake in risky behavior more than other people. I guess that's a nice way to saying I would absolutely put myself in positions before. I just can't imagine sitting outdoors at a baseball stadium is any worse for me than going into a casino and playing poker. And if I'm going into the casino and playing poker, then I guess I could justify going to a spring training baseball game.
Yeah, no, like I was saying earlier in the podcast, I absolutely follow science and recommendations, but I also am a scientist myself, and I think a lot of us can analyze our own personal risk. And, I went on a ship for 7 days, an enclosed ship in October during the pandemic. Granted, we were all required to get tested and quarantined for 14 days, but I can't guarantee that every single person getting on that ship did it, right? Although I was reasonably assumed. We've gone to Palm Springs as a family and rented a house. Then we went down to Vegas where I met you down there. And like you said, you've already been in the casinos playing poker, but we hung out in a casino that night, and it was fine. And so I think you have to understand that this virus is mainly passed via respiratory droplets and mainly in indoor settings. That's the majority of cases are proven to come from those settings. Outdoor transmission is very hard to accomplish because of one, you're required to wear masks in this setting. So that already reduces it tremendously. And then number 2, you just have the wind and the sun. And you need to, I think people misunderstood how you get infected in the beginning of the pandemic, where it's like one breath of someone else's breath would get you infected. You have to have something called a viral, it's a viral load, right? So every breath is going to have a certain number of virus particles in it. If you just take one breath of an infected person, that isn't necessarily going to infect you because the viral load isn't going to be high enough. You have to cross a threshold. That's why it's usually you have to be indoors breathing that air for 10 to 15 minutes to get enough of a viral load where it finally takes hold in your body. It's the same thing. And outdoors, unless someone is right by you, breathing into your freaking face, who's infected, the chances of outdoor transmission are really, really low. So I would absolutely feel comfortable in doing this, especially if, you're just with your family member or friend and you both trust each other in your little pod. Yeah. No one's close to you.
Up too. What do
and you got to be masked up anyway. So no, I wouldn't have any problem. I go to CrossFit right now and I work out 6 feet from everyone outside and we're breathing hard, right? We're like, ugh. And that's without masks. And we're outside. And not a single person has gotten sick at our gym since July when we reopened. So no, I would have full confidence in doing that. I would love to.
Common sense just plays a big part in all of this.
I would love to do it, but of course you and I probably aren't going to have access to those tickets this year because they are only selling about 1,000 per game. So they were already hard to get before. Now it's going to be exceedingly hard. And it'll be interesting to see what the resale market's going to be on these, if they allow that, by the way, because I don't know how that's going to be handled. But it says here Scottsdale Stadium has a capacity of 12,000. I believe that is including the grassy knoll. I don't know if they're going to distribute tickets for the grassy knoll. I would assume they would not, because it'd be harder to physically separate everyone because you don't have assigned seating.
True.
So I didn't read that. That's just my assumption, because you go, okay, well, there's way more than 5,000 physical seats in the stadium. So if they're only selling 1,000 tickets, then they're going to be able to distance everyone no problem in the physical seats. But we'll see. I mean, I'm sure they'll come up with something. They'll like divide the grass off into squares or something. Maybe like, you're in square A, you're in square B.
Spray paint on the ground.
Yeah, that'll be
that
interesting.
actually might work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it could. You've seen it like at regional parks in San Francisco and other places where that's what they literally did. They actually drew circles or squares out on grassy areas, and they said, okay, that's go ahead and have fun, but don't get in anyone else's circle. So we'll see if they do that. I mean, that could work. So I think it's great, get a little bit of fans back into spring training, a little bit of that going on, but it's still not going to be the same. And we still don't know what's going to happen by April, because, California still has not opened up sporting facilities. So, as far as all the California baseball teams, as of now, there are not going to be any fans in the stands. But I do anticipate that changing throughout the season.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm hoping for too. I'm hoping that with the vaccine and with the slowed virus spread, and there'll be the opportunity for fans to come in the stands at Oracle. Because while you and I have gotten the opportunity to do it, you've done it. Not everybody has gotten that chance lately. And it's just for the players, for everybody, just to feel normal. It was funny, that Super Bowl looked sold out, even though it wasn't, because they were using cardboard cutouts around the pods, which is a great way to keep the pods together.
Yep.
If you just take the cutouts out of those seats that they can use and that's it, then you're going to keep everybody socially distanced. And if people have a problem watching a game amongst cardboard cutouts, well, then that's their friggin' problem. They don't have to stay.
Yeah.
It's like the one concern I heard from people are like, well, what about in the concourse when I'm rubbing up against people and it's busy and stuff like that? And I'm like, it's no different than when you or I go to the grocery store during this pandemic.
Exactly.
You're not going to get closer than anybody does in that kind of a scenario. So don't feel like we're all crammed together filing in it, because you know how it is when you leave a sold out stadium. You're crammed together going down the ramps or making your way up the ramp, out the tunnel.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like that. You're going to be far enough apart and be able to keep yourself separated and not have to worry about getting caught into a crowd.
No, with only 1,000 people, that's not going to be an issue. I know not all concession stands will be open because of the reduced capacity, but I'm sure they know exactly what they're doing. They'll be like, oh, this is our average throughput. We want to keep distancing. Let's slap all those circles on the ground, and we'll have enough stands open so there's no more than 5 or 6 people in line. And they'll be on all the little dots. It'll be fine. So I don't see an issue with that.
I don't
all
either.
Right. So you challenged me before this podcast to come up with, because there were a couple articles out on MLB.com about our top 5 Oracle Park moments. I thought that was kind of a cool little challenge. So I have my list. So if you want to start or you want me to start, whatever you want.
I'm going to give you my list because I suspect you have some audio to go with some of your stuff.
I do.
And so I'm going to lay my list out for you, and then we can talk about mine real quick, and then we'll shift to yours. So you get the final word with the radio calls. Mine are very simple. I don't have any dates written down. Mm-hmm. I have Bonds hitting 71. Bonds hitting 756. Mm-hmm. Timmy in 2010 versus the Braves. Kane's perfect game. And then my last one is surprising. It's Jonathan Sanchez's no-hitter. Because if I'm not mistaken, that was the first no-hitter ever at the ballpark by a Giant, or by anybody, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just kind of special in that way, because it is a new ballpark. It is now 22 years old. This will be the 22nd season that they play there. Not that, yeah, that's right. And so I always thought of that as one of those milestone moments, because that no-hitter kind of set them into the dynasty age where pitching ruled. And, I've always looked back on that Sanchez one. So real quick again, Bond 71, even though they lost that game. Bond 756. I have no idea if they won or lost that game. Timmy's 2010 dominance versus the Braves, where he struck out 14. 14, right?
Yeah, it was 14. Yeah.
Kane's perfect game, where he struck out 10 against Houston, and then Jonathan Sanchez's no-hitter.
Nice.
How about you? Well, what do you think of that list? Is it surprise you that I didn't put as many playoff games on that list? And I
was surprised you didn't have one or I was a little surprised you didn't have one or two of the playoff games on there for sure. But I totally understand your rationale, because I considered all of what you just kind of repeated there. I myself, I'll reveal this list one by one via audio. I almost put a Bonds one in there. I did not, however. I focused more on like team accomplishments. I mean, there's an individual accomplishment in here too.
Are you saying I'm selfish? Are you trying to call me selfish?
See, I myself, because I was also thinking of like moments I was there. I was there when Bonds hit 600. I was there when he hit 660, which is really cool, because it was all the confetti and stopping for a mid-game ceremony. I wasn't there for 71 or 756, but I was there for 73 when he hit an off knuckleballer Russ Springer on the last day of the season against the Dodgers. So that was cool. Like I saw the highest home run ever hit, even though he'd already broken the record. So I've seen number 73 in person, right? Saw JT Snow's home run off of Benitez that ended up losing that game too, which was a fantastic moment to be there live, especially to hear the whole stadium go quiet as that ball descended, and to hear that thunk off of the copper or tin roof, and then just everybody going nuts just to blow it not off of Benitez blew it later, just to have it blown later. But all right, so here are my top 5, starting with number 5.
Into right field, a base hit. The throw by Drew to the plate. The Giants are going to the World Series.
That was Kenny Lofton knocking in David Bell in the 2002 National League Championship Series against the St. Louis Cardinals. And the reason I put that in my top is because, of course, it was Pac Bell Park at the time. This was only their 3rd season at the park. And even though, they went to the World Series in 1989, we know what happened there. So this was their first World Series since then, their first berth. And it was done in such dramatic fashion, even though it was just Game 5. And I remember just being home and watching that live, and Kenny Lofton, he had 2 outs with 2 strikes on, and just ripping that one-handed, that unique whipping one-armed action that he had as he followed through with the bat, pulling that thing into right center field, and having David Bell, now, by the way, the current Cincinnati Reds manager, rounding third and sliding headfirst into home. That was just so awesome, because it was the first time they made the World Series at Oracle Park, the first time as an adult, and kind of just gave me hope that they could actually win the World Series that year. Of course they didn't. We all know what happened. But that said, that was my number 5 moment. Oops.
I didn't think of oh no, I put my volume down.
That was me. I think I had a phone call coming for a second.
So crushed because of 02,
I know the World Series itself I don't like to talk about, but that was a good moment in itself. Okay, here's my number 4 moment.
But now looking into Buster Posey. 1 ball and 2 strikes. On the ground, Arias from deep third, got him! And that's a perfect game. And the Giants mobbing Matt Cain on the pitcher's mound.
Yeah, one of those days that we'll never forget as far as individual performance. That is one of the absolute toughest thing to do, of course, in baseball. Is something gonna blow up?
I cried that night.
Is something going to blow up, Eric? I hear a beeping.
Oh, that's UPS.
Oh, okay. I was like, is there a bomb threat somewhere?
I moved closer to it, so that's probably not good for me.
Good. The truck is just backing up. I get it.
Yeah.
No, that was an incredible night, and we had some of our good friends that were actually in the park that night, which I'm so jealous of. That would have been something to witness for the ages. All right, number 3 on my list. Here we go.
That should end it. And who else? Scooter-O. And the Giants have won the pennant. 9-0 the final in Game 7.
Now that one you might ask, why would you choose that one? That's not like a crazy individual moment. And the reason I did is
me.
The reason I did is because it's not that moment. It's not that Scooter-O catching a pop-up in the rain and a 9-0 blowout win is amazing. It's the fact that it was a culmination of an incredible comeback of 2 consecutive series. Coming back 2-0 to Cincinnati. Coming back from a 3-1 deficit to the Cardinals in this series. To come back and destroy them in Game 7 and then to send them to the World Series. It was just something that, again, it's personal choice. I thought that was a remarkable... It's really just more of a symbol for the remarkable comeback they had for that entire postseason.
That is a joyous game that you chose. That was a party. That was with the rain and the scooter-rowing. Yeah. That is the probably most joyful game, even above the Kane no-hitter, which is the only one so far we've both had. This 9-0 victory over the Cardinals, I'm with you. It was so joyful because it was the culmination. It was like, oh, we did it. We came back. And, you know, I think as Giants fans, I don't know about you, but I kind of knew going into the World Series after watching the way Game 7 played out, they're going to be just fine.
Oh, I thought so too. And they ended up winning not just 3 in a row against the Cardinals, but then 4 in a row against the Tigers. They won 7 in a row to close out the 2012 season. That was incredible. Yeah, and it's really, really fun to go back on all of those ESPN MLB Network prognostications. Not a single soul chose the Giants to win that World Series. So it was so much fun to go back and see that. All right, number 2 on my list. I actually was here for this crazy game back in 2012.
Count 0-2. And Sandoval hits it into center. Back at the wall. Goodbye. 1-0 Giants and a home run by Pablo Sandoval. The 2-0. Fly ball into left. Back at the wall. He's homered again. Doesn't activate it until the 3rd week of August. Into center. At the wall. Another. Pablo Sandoval with a 3-homer game in World Series game number 1.
That was just, talk about a party, man. I remember, and I've said this on the podcast before, I got tickets with my buddy. It's $500, but I pulled the trigger anyway. Rode Caltrain up, and the Giants were exhausted from, and it's funny that I played that because those were 2 games in a row. I didn't even think about that.
That's
the previous
true.
highlight.
And 3 in a row from 2012.
Yeah. So, of course, those 2 games were back-to-back, right? They had played the maximum 5 against Cincinnati, played the maximum 7 against St. Louis. Detroit came in as the heavy favorite, totally rested. The juggernaut with, Verlander on the mound, the number 1. And we had to go with Barry freaking Zito because Bumgarner and all the other ones were gassed, right? So it was like David versus Goliath. And I remember riding the train up just going, okay, whatever. I expect the Giants to lose this game, but who knows what could happen, And it's baseball. Crazy things can happen. And boy, we had no idea that Zito would have the game of his life. Pablo would go off and match, only Babe Ruth and Albert Pujols by hitting 3 home runs in a game. And then even Barry Zito and others got into the act with, a couple of hits here and there. That was just a party, man. That was a party all game long. And to his 3rd time up, because he had already hit 2 off Verlander, and then he's coming up his 3rd time. And we're all just sitting there crossing our fingers going, no way. Could this really happen? I mean, I paid $500 for the seat. It would totally be worth the money. And,
yes, it would.
and then whack. And even my friend, who's not even a Giants fan, he's an A's fan, but he loves baseball, was there. And we were just going apeshit. It was just like such a pure baseball experience. And I'm biased because I was there, but really, as far as individual accolades, but also moments in Oracle Park history, I thought it definitely deserved to be up there.
Yeah, I thought that would be your number one.
And, well, close. 2 years later, here's my number one.
Travis Ishikawa hits one into right. The Giants win the pennant.
It's always so fun to go back and listen and watch all of this stuff,
Goosebumps from that one. And I never considered Joe Buck's call there, how he had to think to himself, you know what, I'm going for it. This is the only time in my life I'm going to get to say the Giants win the pennant after they hit a home run to win the pennant. So I'm going to say those words.
Yeah.
I kind of respect that, actually. I think that was a great call for him to just go for it and then shut up right afterwards, because hearing the crowd noise as he was rounding the bases, picturing Jake Peavy running out at him.
Yeah, get out of my way!
I was just goosebumps still to this day. That's a fine list. You chose the ones I didn't.
Yeah. But see, you know what? This is what it's kind of neat about it, is that, like you said, this is going to be the 22nd season. But out of 21 seasons, we chose our top 5. There's a lot to choose from, Eric, right?
Yeah, we had 9 combined between the two of us.
Yeah, so we only had an overlap of whatever, 1 or 2 of them. And I think that's what's unique about how many moments there have been. And it depends on what kind of lens you're looking through. But I think if you go and ask, I don't know, the Baltimore Orioles fan, top 5 moments in, their Camden Yards history or whatever. I mean, you're going to pull up like Cal Ripken's streak and, a couple other things. They don't have any World Series heroics or NLCS heroics, right? I mean, so you're going to have most of these teams, especially if they've only had 20 years in a stadium. They're not going to have even half the list that we have to choose from.
And chances are we wouldn't be running this exercise if we were Baltimore Oriole fans.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that one time Jonathan Villar hit for the cycle. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine. Damn.
Yeah. Like Seattle Mariners. It's like, oh, you got Ken Griffey sliding into home plate. Edgar Martinez hitting a hitting record or something. Like, yeah, you're just not going to have a whole lot of stuff to go on there. And that was the Kingdom. And now you look at Safeco Field, you probably go,
Ichiro did this.
Ichiro
did that.
Hit record. Ichiro hit record.
Felix did this. Philip Humber threw. Look at that. I could come up. Philip Humber threw a perfect
Philip
game.
Humber with a perfect game. That's
but
right.
But that's not even for them. It was against them.
Oh, that's right. What? You're right. Anyway, that was a fun exercise to kind of go through. And really, it was hard to squeeze in the top 5 because, like you said, there's these great moments with Bonds, and I was there for some of them, which were just, so fun at the time. It was always a party at the park from year to year, There's not too many years where it's been kind of blah.
Are you ready for baseball now?
I am ready for baseball, big time. I want to go out and throw the ball right now. Well, you got jet fighters going out there now.
Yeah, apparently. Nope, it's just southwest.
Oh, it's just
apparently
southwest.
The wind is blowing in such a way that everything's coming through the window.
Got it. Okay, so the very last thing I wanted to talk about is somewhat baseball related and Giants related, but Pedro Gomez, longtime Major League Baseball reporter, died very suddenly and unexpectedly at his home about 3 days ago. We still don't know the cause of death. He was 58 years old, but I remember him being a local A's beat writer here for the San Jose Mercury News back in the 90s, and he eventually, of course, made the national scene, and he probably got really famous when he was the personal reporter to the Barry Bonds home run chase. And he was there after every single game interviewing Barry Bonds and other people about the chase. And by all accounts, he was tired of that assignment. He didn't like the assignment, but he really had his face plastered all over ESPN every single night as they were reporting on this chase. But of course, he's known for all of his other coverage as well. He's always been known as a fair and balanced, very nice man, very sweet man. A lot of now reporters that I'm connected to on Facebook, and of course ones you see on Twitter, have been honestly talking about their relationship with Pedro Gomez, and they've just said nothing but the best, that this guy was truly a humble, down-to-earth, family kind of guy who just loved baseball. And of course, one of his sons, Rio, is a minor league pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, so the baseball blood runs deep. And I just thought it was worth a mention because I've always liked his coverage and liked his personality and demeanor and the way he talked about the game. And it was just shocking to hear him pass away all of a sudden.
Yeah, I like Pedro Gomez. I always liked him on the Bonds beat. He seemed like a guy who had the trust of everybody around him. And I didn't know he was an A's beat writer, like you mentioned. And so that's kind of an insight onto why he was the Bay Area guy. I never knew why Pedro was the one that always got those kind of interviews. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense now. He was never one of those reporters that you get annoyed by either. You see some of these baseball reporters out there and they'll say things and you'll be like, well, that's just like your opinion, man. But Pedro just kind of gave it to you and told you what it was that he learned from whatever source or person he was talking to. And I liked Pedro. He died at 58 or something like that?
58 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. It's young. And it's funny, actually. I lost somebody else in sports media this past week. I listened to a podcast around the NFL, and there's a guy on there named Chris Wessling who died of cancer over the weekend, literally 2 days before the Super Bowl, on a football podcast. Yeah, right? And it's just the fragility of life, like, really jumps out at you when you hear these guys that are young. Chris was 40. He would have turned 46 in like 2 weeks.
Oh, jeez. So, he's younger than me. Oh, my God.
Right. And so you hear about guys like Pedro, and like we say, oh, that's young. And then, I mentioned Chris, and that affected me. And like, I hope that like what we do, at least some of our personality comes across in the genuine way that you and I both are when we're with each other, that comes across, on this podcast as well. And it'd be nice to have nice things said about both of us if anything were to happen at this point. Not that we're looking for notoriety, but just you hope that had something tragic happen to you, that everybody would be talking in such a glowing way like I am about Chris, or we are about Pedro. And I always hope that we, as a person, you want to leave that kind of mark on the world. I heard a good story about Pedro, and then I'll shut up. Tim Keown, who writes for Sports Illustrated, he was on the Bonds beat with Pedro back in, what the hell year is that again? 02? 01. 01. Hello, Eric. And Pedro, Tim's boys started calling Pedro the man because he was on, ESPN 25 times a day, probably more than that. And in Tim's house, he was referred to as the man. And one day Tim was out, on the beat with Pedro, and he got a call from his wife, and his wife's like, the boys are acting up. And he's like, oh, well, tell the boys who's here. And he's like, the man's next to me. And all of a sudden the kids all got quiet on the other end of the phone. And Pedro's like, hand me the phone. And so he gets handed the phone, and the oldest one is on the phone. And he's like, listen to your mother. The man said so. And he just immediately handed the phone back to Tim. And it's just the kind of story that tells you what kind of guy he is, that he would roll with the punches. And he could take the joke and be a part of the joke, as well as, making the joke in that kind of setting. And I think that that's the kind of stuff that came across. So I can totally see why Pedro would be mourned in the Bay Area, because he seemed like a real, genuine, good kind of reporter and guy.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, I mean, it's happened, all of 2020 and 21. It just seems like there's been way more celebrities and athletes dying than normal. And not just because of the pandemic. I mean, we actually, Tommy LaStella passed away shortly after we recorded on January 7th. We didn't have a chance to talk about him, I don't believe. And, obviously what he meant as a Dodger, great, but also as a Giants antagonist, Then we had Hank Aaron pass away a couple of weeks ago, which, 80 years old, you're not going to say it's, quote, shocking, but it wasn't expected. So, and then Don Sutton passed away, and I have a whole list in front of me I could go through, but we all know how many Hall of Famers died in 2020. I mean, it was an incredible list. Like, what is going on, man? It's been real bad.
Put Willie in bubble wrap and don't let him move.
I know, because we already had Willie McCovey go, a couple years ago, a year and a half ago or whatever it was. And then we got Willie Mays. What is he, sitting at 88 or something like that?
I think so. He was born in 31. Oh, no. So he'll turn 90 this year.
Oh, so he was 89. Okay, so he'll turn 90 this year. I mean, that's like, okay. Please, come on, Willie, hang on a couple more years, please.
Right? Like, I immediately, I will. I'll be devastated the day that happens.
Oh, I know.
All my shades will be drawn. I'll be in the corner drinking scotch. That'll be me.
Yeah.
The day Willie goes.
Like,
he's the reason I'm a Giants fan. If our listeners don't know, with my family history, my dad grew up in New York. If it wasn't for Willie Mays, I wouldn't be a Giants fan. It's very, very simple. And so I'll always hold him in the highest regard of any player ever.
For sure. Yeah, he is obviously regarded as really the greatest major league player in history, but certainly the greatest Giant. And so when he goes, that's it. The Giants will have lost, their best player, and baseball as a whole will have lost their best player. It's going to be a sad day, but it won't be unexpected given the fact that, he's 89 years old and not in the greatest health as of, reports from last year that he's not doing
But that's why
we
watch baseball and enjoy the moments that we do, because we never know how many moments we have left. I mean, if you think you're wasting time watching baseball, you're not. You're enjoying your life. You're passing the time. I mean, what else can you do but the things that you love during your life?
It makes up a significant portion of our lives and our enjoyment and our childhood and our memories. So it's definitely not a waste. If it's something you enjoy and you remember and it enhances your life, then you're all the better for it. So that's why we do what we do, Eric.
I agree.
Come and talk about this stuff.
Yep. It's out of passion. I'll say that.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to do it for episode 213 of the Torture Cast. We have spring training reporting here in the next week or two. So I think we're going to be back on the horn within 2 weeks or so, I would imagine. Depends on our schedule and how much happens. But we're definitely going to talk about, how pitchers and catchers reported and how the general team reports, because there's going to be a lot of development by then. We're going to know, what players showed up, if there's COVID explosions, how Major League Baseball is reacting. I'm sure there's going to be plenty to talk about. So to look for us within definitely a couple of weeks. Just on a side note, you can follow us collectively at TortureCast on Twitter, like us on Facebook, where we post all of our episodes, along with our website, torturecast.com. You can follow us individually at ChadK21 for myself, at 2 Out Hits for Eric, that's with the number 2, at Willie Dills for the absent Willie. And speaking of, I mentioned at the top of the show, we do have a new podcast that's out there. It is not baseball related, but it is more of a hodgepodge grab bag of news, politics, sports, gaming, nerd culture, music, whatever you name it. We talk about it from week to week. So you can find that at Hard Edition Podcast. You can find it on Spotify and Google Podcasts. It's not quite out on Apple yet, but it'll be there. You can follow us on Twitter at Hard Edition Pod. But that's the only plug I have today. Eric, you got anything going on?
Nope. I'm going to follow. I think I did this last time. Hard Edition Pod on, because as you said, where you can find it, because I was having some trouble finding it at first. So I'm glad that you listed. There it is. Hard Edition. Oh, I don't follow it. There you go.
Yeah, so you can find it on Spotify or, of course, on Podbean are probably the main ways to get it right now, and Google Podcasts. It's just if you are using like Pocket Cast or Downcast or some sort of podcast catcher, I cannot guarantee you can find that right now, because some of the RSS feeds are messed up with a formerly titled Hard Edition podcast that Willie used to run as recent as 2012. It's causing some problems, but we hope to resolve that here in the next week or two. But in the meantime, you can still find it if you really do want to look for it. It's right there. So it's fun stuff. All right. Well, Eric, if you have nothing else, that'll do it. But yeah, 2 weeks. Look for us. In the meantime, get out, throw the ball, smell the fresh cut grass, unless you live in Minnesota or some really cold area. Then go watch it on TV. But until then, for Eric, this is Chad signing off. We'll see you then. A-boom.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.